Hello. Sorry, I forgot to turn the loop off for the first stream part. Good morning. How are you? I hope you all are well. We're just gonna have to deal with the green back there. I some housekeeping first. Well, first of all, good morning, true crime lovelies. I hope you are well. I hope you are as lovely as I imagine you to be. A couple of housekeeping. I saw that Stephen Stearns was denied his. I gotta fix this. It's gonna drive me crazy, and I don't have on pants. Let's see how this is gonna work. Wait. Sugar Bear is just in here. There's always like a one check, two check. Okay, hopefully that will do me justice. His motion for the press was denied. So I'll do a short clip on it later, but I shared with you the Mr. J saying, I just had another case that had a lot of media attention and it was fine. So yes, the media will be allowed in the Stephen Stearns case. And then some of you were commenting that Sarah had it really good because she didn't have any stun anything on and she didn't have any shackles on her legs or her wrist. I agree, but will she ever be grateful? TBD. Let's get into this. I wanted to go over the footage of, well, it's audio only, of Adam Cox, who is Lori's brother. It doesn't seem she's calling him. I think the state is calling him. And then I can't remember. There's another brother that she wants to call, and her dad, Barry Cox. But what struck me about this the most is what a good guy Charles sounds like. So I have him, and then I also have the neighbor who is the one who confirmed that Lori had a pool party. I think I'm going to start with the pool party because that picks up where we left off yesterday. He still extols like what a good, decent guy Charles was. And then we'll get into Alex. I am going to speed it up because unfortunately I started a little bit late. I'm sorry. My 1-year-old boss had other plans for me this morning. And so I'm just out of the shower, and you probably saw I have on shorts. I'm not like half naked. But let's start with the landlord, and then we'll go from there. We have, let's just get into it. And this is credited to East Idaho News. Shout out to Nate Eaton. I saw some of you guys in his live last night. I love me some Nate. Okay, let's go.
Case number 19-83744.
Hello, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe, Detective Moffat with the Chandler Police Department. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
I'm well. Sorry, I called you. I left a couple messages. I think it was actually Christmas Eve, but and then never heard.
Talking to myself. I'm moving it to 1.25. If you're here with me live and it's too fast, let me know. If you're on the replay crew, I appreciate you. Drop a heart in the comments, but you have the ability to slow it down for yourselves. Okay, let's try this again.
Heard back from you, and it's been on my list to call you back again.
Sir, I completely understand. The 23rd, I disconnected. I think I was the vacation, and then we went up to the mountains for 10, 14 days, and I had no Wi-Fi calling and bad reception. So who knows what happened? So
that's a great 10, 14 days.
Yeah. There's been a lot of activity in the case since even December, all through December.
Oh yeah.
I'm just getting hounded by social media and the Fox News reports guys, and I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in being on that social side of there were a few comments that I had made about how great of a guy Charles was, and that I didn't think any of this happened because I knew him before, during, and I knew events about what was happening at the house after. You might not remember, I'm of course the owner of the house on Four Peaks, right? Yeah. You know that, right? Okay. I think I spoke with you the morning of the shooting.
You probably did, yeah, because I think we spoke that day.
Okay. Yeah, because I called the Chandler Police Department. They said, yes, our police officers are on site. There's a situation. I will have them call you. I identified myself as the owner. You called me, verified who lives there, and you had just said Charles sustained injuries that were not survivable, and that you were on the scene trying to figure out what had happened. So So I thought that I would be hearing from him within, I don't know, a few days or something like that. I just let it, I think it's just been the process of then letting the news reports, or at least the police officers, do their work. My best friend in, since even high school, his name, he lives across the street from me down in Chandler.
Gotcha.
And he's been talking me through understanding that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You don't solve this case overnight. It's going to take a long time. So just let the police do their work. Don't be part of social things. Don't go on news reports, because that just creates problems for people that do that.
Yeah.
They're questioned, they're ridiculed, they're this, they're that. Early on, I wrote down on a piece of paper detailed events that were happening before the weekend. I spoke with Charles the weekend before. I think he was murdered. I think it was on a Wednesday or Thursday morning. Thursday morning. Okay. I was speaking with Charles on the phone, a live conversation during the weekend before, and he was on his business trip. He said he was coming into town. I think he was coming from Texas. He said he's coming back into town, and he said, Joe, you didn't know Charles, but he had a Texas, Louisiana swing accent. So every time I talk in Charles's voice, I always have to add that, hey, Joe, I can't stay at the house. Lori and I just are getting along. And he didn't tell me he was scared for his life, but he says, it's best that Lori and JJ have the house, and I'll just come and go because I've got business in so many different places in Texas, and I think it was in Nevada and California. He was an investment guy, so his partnership, and they would buy books of investment business, and then he would go and start setting up, working the books of business. Well, he was really busy during this time. He was just at 3 cities that he was bringing on new books of business. So he's like, I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to be there a week, a month. So it's good that Lori and JJ are here because her family's here, and I want her to be safe, and I want them to be taken care of. And, with Lori's family here, it's a good thing. Now, I also might tell you that going back to January, when Lori disappeared, in the first conversations, Charles came to my house, crying his eyes out. He was a 60-year-old stud, good friend of mine for 10 years, crying his eyes out to me that Lori's abandoned the family. And here's JJ asking every day where mommy is. Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Tell me a little bit about the stuff that she was getting into with just being mentally unstable, has also been supported by a lot of the divorce decree the attorneys brought up the last week as well. Like with all these things that Charles was saying about Lori, he was fearful of his life even back in February. Well, he was doing the same thing to me. I just support that. I know that's exactly how he was feeling. February-ish, he came and he was looking to rent, the studio above my garage on my house in Chandler. I said, gosh, Charles, it's just kind of like, and he's like, but I don't know if I'm going to need it. But we were talking about it, but then all of a sudden he disappeared. And I think that was maybe the time frame, of course, March, April, May, maybe Lori returned. Lori returned sometime in his life, right? They started trying to work out.
They reunited back in Texas.
Yeah, back to Texas. So, and then June was another call from him to say, we're moving back to Phoenix. Do you have anything? And I said, gosh, Charles, I just cleared out the end of May. I just had a tenant move out of that Four Peaks house. Yeah.
Gina, yes, we watched them together last night. It's the last live. We're all up to speed. Hopefully you've caught it too. He did call him a stud, Keith. He did. And good morning. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Helen. I think he not a stud as in like he's making babies, but Charles was a man's man, if you will. He's taking care of Lori's family. He's taking care of Lori. He's taking care of his adopted son / great nephew. That's what he means by stud. And I think he was 6 something, and he was well built for a 60-year-old man. Well, for any age, he was well built. To see him reduced to tears, I think he used stud to draw that dichotomy. You know what I mean? Not like he was out, wrangling women and making babies.
Yeah, Four Peaks is open. So they arrived in the middle of June. I think the 20th was when Lori texted me that she had the utilities turned on and she wanted to move stuff in, and I know that I had some cleaning to do. I went over there a few times and met with Lori about a punch list to clean the house up and, fix the sink that, the door handle that, pull this, to pull that. And they moved in. She moved in. Then Charles would come and go because he was, of course, on these business trips. One time I was at the house and I met with Charles and Lori, do a punch list on what needed to be done. And then Charles would go on his trip again. But then, so that you have some history, at least from last year. But then on that Sunday or Monday, before he came back into town, the Thursday before he was shot, Charles and I were communicating, and he was telling me, I can't be at the house. Do you have another place that I can live? Well, by that time, I had someone that was living in my studio apartment at my house because Charles was like, I only need it for like a week, a month, maybe a few days because I'll be coming and going. But I want to be close to Lori and JJ because I want to see JJ. And he goes, but Joe, I can't stay at the house. I can't stay at the house. Lori and I, we've got several things to work through still, and it's not good. And I just don't want to. I don't want to crowd that space. If she's going to be there, I want her and JJ to be comfortable at the house. So I have a neighbor that was right across our walls. Our walls connect. Big house in right near my house off of Lindsay and Riggs. So I went over there. I called him. I said, hey, you got Casita. I've got a business guy that's here once a month, 1 week a month. And I took pictures. And this guy, he lived in Hawaii at the time. And he said, yeah, here's the access code to my house. I went over there, took pictures of the Casita. I sent them to Charles. Say, hey, Charles, my neighbor here has this place. He'd be willing to let you stay there. And Charles was like, fantastic. I'll take it. So he was already planning to not be at the house with Lori because it just wasn't good.
When was he planning on that? The condo or the thing from your neighbor's house?
Well, it was that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I had gone over to my neighbor's house to take pictures. The week he was killed.
Okay, gotcha.
I texted him those pictures Monday or Tuesday. It's in my phone. And then, of course, he was telling me the day before on Wednesday, okay, I'll be there. But in the morning, let's go see the house tomorrow morning. And that was Thursday. He goes, I think I knew that he was going to be dropping off JJ or getting JJ, and then he wanted to go see the house right after that.
Gotcha.
Of course, we didn't meet. So I'm at work Thursday morning, and my neighbors, I'm good friends with neighbors both to the north and to the south of that house on Four Peaks. And they both have my phone number. I'm in communication with both of them. But one of them starts to text me immediately. There's yellow police tape around the house. It's a crime scene. Something's not good. They start sending me videos of the Fox News reports that there's a situation and there's police all over. And so I immediately text Charles, are you okay? And I then another text message to Lori, same text message, are you okay? ?
Yeah.
Which Charles doesn't respond. Later that morning, I would say 11 o'clock-ish, I get a text, and this is all on my phone. I get a text back from Lori that says, we are all okay. I'll call and explain later. And I'm like, okay, well, like, I don't even know that I spoke to you at that point because I remember when you called me, you told me that Charles sustained injuries that were not survivable. Like he was shot and he didn't survive his injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I knew that yet or if I just, Lori was telling me we're all okay. I'll explain later. Like, I don't know that the text message that we're all okay is like, I just don't understand. Like, but regardless, the day's events, like, so then like that afternoon, I think the next day I went to my neighbor's house, this neighbor's to the south, and they're like telling me, Joe, like, we don't even get what's going on there because this guy, the shooter, because they've seen him come and go, had the same gray truck that Charles had, the Ford F-150.
Yeah, his was white. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was sitting in the driveway for like the next 3, 4, 5 days, and the neighbors were just up in arms. Like, there is a killer living in the house next to us that's not supposed to be there. Joe, you got to get this guy out of here. Like, our whole neighborhood is on eggshells. So, and he's telling me, I don't know what's going on at the house, but Thursday afternoon, the day of the murder, they're having a pool party at the house, at Lori's house. There's loud music. There's lots of people. There's kids making noise. There's swimming. It's a pool party. And they're like,
balls of a burglar. She was like, I have no shame in my game. I'm out here barbecuing hot dogs and burger patties, and the kids are over with pool noodles. Like, can you imagine? And what must be going through JJ's mind, right? We know he's autistic. What's going through Tylee's mind? Even if she was unaffected by his murder, like, is this the way we behave afterwards, ma'am?
wait a second, like someone was just murdered there this morning. So I don't know how you guys puzzle these pieces together, but just how crazy the events are that had happened before, supporting all the stuff that's coming out in the last several months about the fact that, yeah, from February, Charles was fearful. And then the day before, showing him an apartment and a better place to live because he knew he couldn't stay at the house. Alex had been at the house for several days before and after the shooter, Alex, her brother.
Yeah.
And, the reasons I had, part of this right at the beginning was like, oh, Lori, maybe Charles had a rough side. Maybe Charles was beating up Lori and her brother was there to defend her or whatever. And maybe I was like, gosh, I've known the guy for 10 years, but I've never known that he was like that ever in my life. People sometimes have a separate personality, So early on, I think people were like, oh, poor Lori, like she had to deal with this for so long. And, Alex was just happened to be there. And shot Charles or whatever. But I think all the events that just kept going, like every time I talked to Lori, never cried, never remorseful, never like, Lori, what's the plan for the burial? Well, I've got all these family members to deal with, so I've got to go to Texas and Louisiana and plan something there. And Charles wants to be buried he wanted his ashes to be spread in Kauai, so I've got to plan a trip to take all the family members to Kauai. And this is what she was doing. She's like, so I've got 2 or 3 things to plan. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you a month at the end of August. You're going to have to vacate the house. I can't have this continue to be a memory for me. Charles is my friend. You're my friend. But I just need to close my doors on this house and just get it out of, I have a lot of rental properties in Chandler. So I'm like, this house just needs to be off my list.
Yeah.
So that's why she was able to stay there through the end of August. But, I think that, she kept asking, well, come over. I want to ask you about a few things. I'm like, no, I am not going over to that house. My friend Jeff, who's the police officer, don't go there alone. Don't go anywhere. Go somewhere public if she wants to talk about the situation. I just think, and I don't know what pieces of any of this. I mean, I've been called by the Vallow family because they knew some of the relatives of Charles's that were able to access his calendar and his appointment scheduler for the last several years. Charles was very, very meticulous and precise about his appointments, and my name was on those appointments several times. So one of the family members was even telling me, yeah, Joe, like we saw your name. You're the only person, like we're talking to FBI and law enforcement, and we'll talk to Charles's friends that we can identify because we know who they are in his calendar and his scheduler and his notes.
Yeah.
But they were just telling me about how deep this cult is, and that they've been getting threats in Louisiana, and that they've just been off any social communication or providing any comments about all the social crap that's going on, because there's so much speculation out there. I just also, my wife and I, of course, we own the house. We have plans to do things with the house, but we have some like we're religious. We have certain things that we want to kind of ask if there's an opportunity to have any information about the events that happened in our house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, if you have any questions for me about Lori, do you have any questions about the neighbors, the comments, the pictures, the text message?
I would have called over a shaman or somebody to the house. We gonna have to sage up in here some bad juju. But I understand what he's saying. Like, he wants to know what happened in his property because someone died there. Like, wow.
Threads from Charles.
I actually
the
have
text message
threads with you and Charles because I have Charles's phone.
Okay,
so
got
I
it.
downloaded
Okay.
it, so I have that.
Okay.
The pool party was something that was new to me. I didn't know that, and Kay, Charles' sister, hadn't told me that. So you got that information from the neighbors on either side of them?
How would Kay know that?
Or did you go to the house that day?
Yes, no, the neighbors on the south side of me. Of course, the neighbors were in communication with me the whole time during the day and afterwards because they were scared. There's a murderer at the house. The house is there. I see the guy come and go driving his car. So I had gone over there, and they had said, why was there a pool party there? And I'm like, what do you mean? Loud music? Swimming? Lots of people swimming in the backyard? You could hear kids playing, swimming. I'm like, oh, I don't know. And all I could think was, maybe she was trying to turn normalcy for JJ, an autistic kid. If you keep these autistic kids on a schedule and a routine, that they have some normalcy, maybe.
Yeah,
and maybe the fact that he was used to swimming every day in the afternoon with Lori's sister, who would drive up from wherever she lived in Gilbert, Santana Mesa. She didn't live too far away, but she drove to the house. I saw her there with her family and her kids several times. And I'm like, well, maybe Lori just had the family over to try to give JJ some normalcy because it was a crazy day for him,
Yeah.
But I don't know. But, I hear things like, the shooting happened and Lori then left the house to take the kids to school or different places. And then they came back. She came back, and then they called 911. Right? Like planning all the events. Like you just got.
That's not actually what happened. Lori left.
So before we get into this, I agree, Candace. And when he's like, "Oh, Kay didn't tell us about the pool party," like, how the F would Kay know about the pool party? She's not in Arizona. I'm surprised they didn't interview the owner of the house previously, but I'm glad that they did. I'm glad this man obviously stepped forward to clear Charles's name because he was hearing him being dragged right in the news. So I agree wholeheartedly, Candace.
According to her, to take JJ to school, and then Alex called 911 while she was gone, and we were already on scene.
I'm gonna go back.
And her kids several times. And I'm like, well, maybe Lori just had the family over to try to give JJ some normalcy because it was a crazy day for him, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. But, you know, I hear things like, you know, the shooting happened and Lori then left the house to take the kids to school or different places. And then they came back. She came back, and then they called 911. Right, like planning all the events. Like
that's not actually what happened. Lori left according to her, to take JJ to school, and then Alex called 911 while she was gone, and we were already on scene by the time Lori got back.
Got it. Yeah.
So I do believe there was some delay on Alex's part of calling 911. I don't think he called right away. But 911 had been called, and we were already on scene by the time Lori got back.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm not the person to say the speculation of, oh, well, they were planning the crime scene, they were doing this. You guys, that's your you know, how the story unfolds, how everything. I mean, you hear things. You'll get Lori back for more questioning. You know, Alex's murder is another whole twist in the complete circus of a story. But like, here's, you know, and I also, so here's my thing about it. I was crazy about the fact that here's my friend Charles, which was a sweet, generous family man. Like, we were so good friends. Charles and Lori had rented a house from me years when they first moved here from Texas. They lived in Shadow Ridge, which is like at Lindsay and Riggs. It's another home where I have a rental house. Charles and Lori rented a house from me from there, like, for 5 years, when they both moved here from Texas, years and years ago. So for 5 years, Charles and I were like across the street from each other. He'd come over, I'd go over, and even when they left to move to Hawaii, he left all his furniture, all his TVs, almost like was going to give me a car and just say, Joe, here, just take it because we were moving and you can, you know, you keep it at the house, use it as a rental or whatever. That's how generous, like, Charles was, like, with things. It wasn't like he was like, pay me $5,000 and you can have this stuff. He's like, here, just have it, right? Well, years later, Charles and I are maintaining friendships while they're in Hawaii, and we're here, and we're talking about doing a house swap. Hey, Charles, you come here with your family, stay in Chandler, so you can visit your Chandler family with Lori, and I'll go to Hawaii and stay in your house in Princeville. And we were, you know, for 2 summers we were trying to set that up. Then finally one year we went there. Yeah. We went to Princeville, and we had a barbecue with the Vallows, JJ, Tylee, Lori, Charles, at their house in the golf course. Charles, you know, just carrying my dog, like, they live on the top of this house, and the beach was on this really steep hill to go down a hill, and he would carry my kids down the hill. Just like this guy that has everything about family and just being generous and everything. So of course, when they came back, I was the first person that he was looking to get a house to rent, you know. So that was the communication that you were seeing with Charles and I, where even 7:49 the night before he was shot, his last text message to me, okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll call you, like, when I'm done. And I guess my assumption was that was like after I dropped JJ off at school, I'll be back and we'll go look at that house to rent. Not too many people knew about the fact that, of course, I went to my neighbor's house and they're telling me these things, and, you know, the pool party and, you know, the things that were happening, and then Alex still being at the house several days before and several days after this happened. You know, I'm in the house, you know, like, I don't want to you know, if a homeowner has the right to, like, you know, there's no police report out on what happened other than what you guys released to the news, and I think that's what's out, right? I don't know if there's more. I don't know if I have the ability to go to records to Chandler and say, hey, it's my house. Do I have the ability to receive any additional information so I can either clean the house where it needs to be cleaned, or if I can, you know, do some type of closing so that I can, you know, be able to go into the house. I don't know where the things happened. I don't know where his body was. I don't know, you know, where the gunshots were. If I need to look for, you know, other gunshot damage anywhere.
Since we finished up in July,
I've been there several times. Okay. I've been there several times because I have the house for sale.
Gotcha.
And it's just taken me a while I wanted to paint the house. I wanted to paint the outside. I wanted to redo the backyard just because I've been getting the house ready for sale. I have a contract on the house. We're due to close the end of January. Like literally like 2 or 3 weeks. So, but, you know, of course, that was the reason that I didn't want the house in the first place, because I don't want to go there. It's just a terrible feeling even being in the neighborhood. So
Charles did not live in the house before Lori was there. That's what the gentleman is saying. Charles didn't live in that house at all. He said he preferred that Lori and JJ stay there because things were very tense. He was looking at another house. There was a friend that was in Hawaii who had a place that was in the neighborhood. So Charles did not live in this house prior to Lori. I mean, if you look at the video, you can see that Lori was still moving in. She in her body cam footage at the scene, I think she said they were there a couple of weeks. And so this was Charles coming. He had flown back in and he was coming to take JJ to school. Hopefully that helps.
But, I think the most important thing that I wanted to communicate with you is that, I had communicated with the Vallow family, and they had told me some things about what they were privileged to because, their brother or their uncle, person died. Charles died in the house, and they were, looking for some answers. I kind of don't want to know about any more things that happened in the house, but I just want to know that there's any more information that you might have or need from me, like even the text message threads from Lori that we were talking about through the days before and after, like the days after where I'm like, whose red SUV is that? Whose gray truck is that? She's like, oh, the red SUV was Charles's rental car, and the truck is her brother's, and it's still out front, still sitting there. The neighbors were sending me pictures of it. Like, why is this truck still here? So, but I don't know if that's anything as useful information other than, just connecting with you or just saying, I'm selling the house. Someone else will be in there. I don't know that you would need any more information there, but certainly.
Because you clearly saw the piece of flooring that we cut out in the living room? Or did Lori already have it fixed?
The piece of flooring that you cut out?
Yeah, we cut out a piece of flooring in the living room. We
actually no idea.
Sawzall, and so Lori must have already had that fixed.
Oh, geez. No idea, sir. No idea where that was or when that, because there was extra flooring in the garage.
Okay, so she must have fixed that. And then we cut out a piece of the trim board also. That was on the east wall of the living room. We cut that out also. So she must.
You say the living room. There was a family room where the TV was by the kitchen.
The front door, the
yes.
big wood floor that was open. I think she had some mirrors on the wall. If you were when you walk in the front door to the right, and then when you walk in the front door straight ahead of you, you're looking at the windows that go out to the pool area and the backyard.
Yes.
So right there, kind of as you walked in the front door, on that far wall underneath the windows, we cut out a piece of trim board too. So I'm guessing she probably had fixed that also. So that isn't something that you.
Okay, there was a very grotesque repair there, like almost like she put some wood there and then took caulking and just made it. And I was like, what the heck is that? I had no idea that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was from Lori replacing things that you guys took out.
That we took out, yeah. So she must have replaced. It was only it was like a single plank that we cut out, and it was probably, I'm going to guess, if my memory serves me correctly, 14 to 16 inches long. So she. I was
going to say 12, 15 inches. Yes, exactly.
So she probably replaced that plank. Obviously, the incident happened in the living room there. So, we were. Everybody's statements when we investigated this added up. There was 3 people in the house, obviously, according to everybody in the house at the time of the shooting. So their statements all kind of matched, but it just didn't sit right with us. So we've been investigating it ever since and had a case open, and we were waiting for DNA and fingerprints on the bat that was inside the house and a bunch of other stuff. And then clearly everything kind of goes wacky as soon as all these other events start unfolding and the shooting in Gilbert, and then her new husband's wife dying in Idaho, and then the kids being missing, and so everything goes just wacky. Basically, after she leaves your house in August, did she move out right at the end of August?
Text message from her says that they're out August 31st. They're all done and they're gone. And I had done some emails like, well, good luck to you. And like, where are you going? I asked her because are you going to Texas? And then she never replied after that. So, August 31st was the last day that she was here in our house.
Joe, what's your email address?
That's in the video. They're redacting.
I'm sending you an email real quick.
Okay.
It has my desk number and stuff on it. And then if you could, from like the day of the incident on, do you know how to screenshot and email the screenshots?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If not, let me know and we can have somebody do it. But if you know how to screenshot and email the screenshots, I'd be interested for your text communication with Lori, basically on the day of the incident until you kind of cut off or tell your last communication.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's just kind of more the historical and kind of what's going on in her world type thing that I'd be interested in.
I think you're right, Katie. I've asked for the text messages between like Lori and Alex and Lori and Charles and Lori and Kate, because I'm curious like what was actually documented, because clearly that was all orchestrated that morning. So hopefully the state is also prepared for her foolishness to be like, oh, Alex was protecting me. I had nothing to do with it.
Sure. Did you
Because it's
guys,
coming.
the gun that was used, was that Lori's, Charles's, was it Alex's?
It was Alex's.
See, why the hell did he have a gun at the house? He wasn't even supposed to be at the house.
Thanks, Yana.
We have a crime-free addendum lease too. Like, I didn't know that someone with a record, like, that was completely out of.
The media has some of this screwed up. He was legally and lawfully able to carry a firearm. His rights were the exact same as yours and mine. So, and we've actually gone through. We did that, when this first happened, and confirmed that his rights. He had that assault case in Texas, but his rights have been restored, and he was able to carry a firearm. So,
well, we all have the history, like whatever.
Yeah.
But, okay, that's just.
Is there any questions that you want me to answer for you if I can?
I think my wife, she was just kind of curious about if we were going to have the house blessed or do something with a priest at the house to kind of like just get the demons out of the house. She was like, "Where do we go? What do we do?" And if I told her it's the front room, that makes sense. That the board and when you say the flooring was removed right by that area, because I remember seeing the baseboard.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the flooring was removed. So when you walk in the door and you were to make a right down the first hallway that walked into the side of the kitchen, it was kind of right in that area is where the flooring would have been removed at, and then obviously the trim piece was across that room.
Okay. Now, is that where the body and there was blood there? Is that why it was removed, or was there damage?
Where the flooring was removed, and if you pay close attention, you might be able to see where it was. But it was kind of, when you go in the front door and you make a right along that wall, it was right down right there.
Okay. Well, again, I've been, during my Christmas break, I was like reading, trying to find information because it was really heavy, lots of information and updates every day. You just get, like, as an outside person, you guys do this for a daily and a living. And for me, it was like, gosh, I just want to find out anything I can. But then I'm like, you just get so infatuated, your life gets consumed by this. And I'm like, no, I'm done with it. I want to communicate to authorities, anything that they might need to know. And then I think the stuff is going to come to a head pretty soon. There's so much activity going on right now. There's so much, but I think just the fact that I knew that the Vallow family knew and they had more information about what happened in that house, and they were complete. They had a celebration of life for Charles, which I didn't know about. I didn't know that there was something in Louisiana for Charles. And, I've been communicating with some of the family members because they appreciated the fact that I was defending Charles's person when those first reports about, oh, this guy comes to a gunfight with a bat beating up his wife and her brother. And I'm like, no, that's not how it happened. Charles does not. That's not Charles. No one would ever support the fact that he's a violent person. So that bothered me for a long time. And what I could do, I was closer to Charles than I was to Lori. I liked Lori. I thought she was a great mom. Like a lot of people are saying, she was a great mom for a long time. And they did. I have 8 kids and 5 of them are adopted. And Charles and I were always having those conversations about adopting kids because he did. JJ was adopted. Yep. So we would always have those conversations about how it's going, like what's the challenges, what are you doing? But and Lori was right in line with those as well. When we went to California or to Hawaii to see them, she was just very hospitable. So I can't say that it's a long history. It's just been a couple of years, like everyone else said. She's gone off the wagon. So
yeah.
But,
as far as the religious views and stuff, it's just kind of way out there. I mean, without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, let me see how I can figure out if I can send the thread of the text messages of Lori and just, get anything to you so that you have that for your record. But, and then, I don't know, the neighbors that are at the house, man, they had their eyes and ears peeled of events that were happening. And, some of those comments are directly from them that, Joe, why was there a pool party at the house? I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So I
sent you an email, and it has my name, my desk phone number, and then and my email address. So now you have my direct contact information in case you happen to have any questions, or if anything comes out, you can just call me directly.
Got it. I did. I received your email here. Okay. All right. And as a homeowner, are we able to receive any other additional information on the report of the house, or is that all closed until this is all figured out and done? And
so I'll share with you. It is my opinion, and obviously with Alex's death, it's going to be harder to prove, but it's my opinion that they set Charles up for some sort of encounter. So I don't think, and I haven't thought that it was exactly as they say since this started. But it's a matter of us trying to prove it, and that's what we've been working on.
Understood.
So
yeah.
we are keeping this open if and when more information gets developed. I mean, I've been actively working this case with the FBI, with Gilbert PD, with the folks at FBI out of Idaho, the two different agencies in Idaho. There's a sheriff's department, and then there's Rexburg, Idaho. So I mean, on a daily basis, we're doing stuff with this case. So I'm keeping it open for now.
Okay, that's basically the end of it. I'm gonna switch to Adam Cox, who was talking about his text messages with Charles. He also exalts Charles as a stand-up guy. Mrs. Parks, I got your photo. I'll have to post it if it's okay with you on the post tab. I don't know if I hold it up because I'm in front of this green screen, if they'll see it. But oh yeah, I think it's the stress, right? Poor not Lori. Okay, here, let me share this tab. So this is Lori's brother, Adam, talking to the detective. And there were lots of text messages between he and Charles. In fact, while Lori was at the Burger King that morning after Charles's death, she was reading the text messages between Adam and Charles. And then her family decided not to talk to him after that.
I understand that Lori's your sister, and obviously I was assigned the death investigation.
Oh, sorry, I meant to answer you too, Addie. Yes, she was the biological genetic mother of Tylee.
I'm just trying to get, I guess, any type of insight that you might have.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot there. About maybe a year or two ago, Lori started reading some books and near-death experience books, and started saying some weird things. Yeah, I don't know if you know a lot about the LDS religion, but we're LDS, and so she started, I think, listening to podcasts and some people who were LDS and now have been excommunicated from our church.
Thank you, chocolate chip.
And so she started following them, and then she started saying some really weird things. And my son moved there and was living with her and Charles.
Okay.
And he heard some of the same weird things that I did. And so some of those things were that she, talks to Jesus in the temple, and she's married to Moroni, and she's not married to Charles anymore, and that she has a higher priesthood than the rest of us, and just some things that were alarming to me. And because I told her that I thought those were alarming, and she goes, "You think I'm crazy, don't you?" And I was like, "I don't know if you're crazy, but none of that makes any sense to me." And after I told her that, she cut me off, and me and her were closer than anybody in the family.
Okay.
And she just stopped talking to me altogether. I haven't talked to her in over a year and a half.
Okay.
And then she cut off some of my family from communication as well when they thought that she was saying some things, and she just went off into some other tangent. And so she's with another group that is called Preparing for the End or something like that. But the things that caught me that were shocking was her telling Charles that Charles is dead, and she knows that there was another guy named Ned that was living in Charles's body, and he was an inch shorter, and that Charles couldn't fool her anymore because he was an inch shorter. It was really alarming to me that she said Charles was dead and that some guy named Ned was living in her body. She talks about people having dark spirits that she can see, and she knows who has dark spirits and when there's dark spirits around, and just a lot of crazy stuff. And so when I told my family, I was like, "Look, I'm really concerned about Lori. I think she needs to go to a psychiatrist, or something needs to be happening." And my mom and dad had told me, they said, "Well, she's disconnected from reality because that's the only reality that she feels she can live in, and she's not hurting anybody." And when they told me that, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just stay away. I won't try to confront her, because Charles, for about a year, or after they got divorced or were going to get divorced, called me and saying, "I'm telling you, your sister has gone off the deep end." And I said, "What?" So he told me all the things that she had told him. And he would just call me sobbing, crying, because he didn't have the same wife anymore, didn't have the same Lori. And my whole family cut him off because Lori told them, do not talk to Charles. Okay. And I was the only one that took Charles's phone calls, and I live in Kansas. Gotcha. And I felt bad for Charles. And so I said, Charles, I'll do what I can to help, but Lori won't talk to me because she thinks I think she's crazy. So, anyways, through all this, Charles said, well, something has to be done because she thinks that she talked Melanie, who's our niece, and she's part of this group now where they go and they're preparing for the end of the world or something. And so she's got her on this, and then she said that her husband was gay, that she went to the temple and prayed about it, that he's gay, and Brandon is not gay. So Melanie left Brandon and just divorced him, and Lori said, oh, yeah, I prayed about it. He's gay. So Brandon was upset that Lori's interfering with their lives. So Charles had told me Lori is ruining people's lives by just, saying stupid, crazy things. And so he goes, something's got to be done. So he wanted me to fly out there and meet with the stake president, because I know their stake president in our church. And I said, all right, I'll go out there and meet. And he says, I'll just put you on my miles and I'll fly you out there, but don't tell Lori or tell your family that I'm flying you out there, or Lori will run. She won't talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I flew out to Arizona and I stayed with my mom and dad, and I told them that I got the airline tickets from my wife, Nicole, that she put it on her points, right? So while I'm there in Arizona, I'm at my mom and dad's house, and Charles was supposed to go pick up JJ on Thursday morning. Well, he texts me like at 7:30 in the morning, and he said, Alex is here. And back up a little bit, on Tuesday, I called Alex and I said, hey, because me and Charles, it was getting my ticket. I said, hey, I'm coming to Arizona. Him and I used to spend time together, and he comes out here. He's a truck driver, and he's also sucked into Lori's whatever she tells him. He believes, and so he's listening to all these podcasts, and he's fallen into whatever she says. He's all about it. And so I said, look, I'd like to spend some time with you. How about if I spend the night at your house instead of mom and dad's house? He said, yeah, I'll go buy a mattress and a blow-up mattress. So you can stay in my room, in one of his bedrooms. And I said, oh, that'd be great. So I get in on Wednesday, and I called Alex, and he never answers the phone or returns any of my calls. And I thought, that's really weird. So I spent the night at my mom and dad's that night. And I asked him, I said, well, what are you doing home? And he goes, I took this week off. I said, well, why'd you take the week off? He goes, I don't know, I'm just working around the house. And usually when my brother takes a week off of vacation, he goes to Colombia to be with women. Okay. So I thought it was very strange that he took a whole week off.
Sexual tourism, like Charles Adelson, if anybody's unclear.
Just to hang out at his house. I said, that doesn't make any sense. So when Charles texts me, Alex is here, I said, that sounds weird. Why is he at Lori's house? I said, be on the lookout or something. They could be up to something. And Charles texted me back, absolutely. So next thing I know, Charles would call me and text me all the time, like during the week. And I was the only one that would talk to him. And I felt, he just was distraught over this whole thing with Lori.
Oh my goodness, Northwest. Yes, 5 people were in that house the day he was shot, and only 1 is alive. Alex is gone. Tylee is gone. JJ is gone. Obviously, Charles is gone. Lori is the last one standing. That is heartbreaking when you say it like that. Also, yes, I highly recommend Reporting Live from My Sofa readings of all of Chad's foolishness about his burning loins, like chef's kiss, no doubt.
So Thursday, after he texted all that, I drove my mom and dad to the temple and dropped them off in the car, and I went and got my son, and we hang out. And I didn't hear from him all day Thursday. And I thought, well, that's really weird. So I called. I think I either texted him or called him, and he didn't answer. And then on Friday, same thing. I called him, texted him, and I said, it's just so weird that I've heard from Charles. I wonder what's wrong with Charles. And where is he? What's he doing? I haven't heard from him. And that whole day went by. Well, Saturday, me and my son went to Tucson to hang out with my friend Eric. So as we drove to Tucson, I thought, I have a really bad feeling in my stomach. Like, what would happen if Charles went in? And I literally told this to my son, and then when I got to Tucson, I told this to my friend. I said, what if Alex and Lori did something to Charles? And because he doesn't have his phone, and he's always on his phone. And I just said, I have a sick feeling. So when I went to Tucson, I told my friend Eric, I was like, I don't know, there's something really weird going on, because I told him the whole situation, and Charles had not called. And I said, this is really weird. And so Eric, on a whim, Googles Charles's name. He goes, well, what's his name? I said, Charles Vallow. And he says, it says here that he got shot and killed by his brother-in-law in Chandler. I said, what? And I read the article. I broke down and started crying because I said, I felt like something was wrong. And Eric was like, oh my, I mean, we were literally in shock. Nobody called me. Not my mom and dad, not my brother, not my sister. My sister Summer was in New York at the time. So, and my son Zach was watching my sister Summer's dog. We were in charge of her house. So I drove home, and I was talking to my mom and dad when I was driving home. I was like, we got to talk. And my mom got all mad at me. And she goes, we sure do. And so when I got to my mom and dad's house, Tylee was there. And Tylee was standing at the edge of the counter. And she was quiet. And Tylee's always hugging me and saying hi to me. She looked like she did not want to say a word to me, and was just talking to my mom. Me and Zach, my son, came in and sat down, and they had a conversation between the two of them without me being able to hear what they were saying. And then my mom, Tylee and my mom. Okay. And so Tylee and my mom, then my mom walked Tylee to the end of the hallway, and Tylee left, got in her Jeep and left. And my mom came in and she goes, how dare you not, say anything to her after what she's been through? And then I snapped and I screamed. I said, Charles is dead, and nobody in the family has said a word about it. And it's been 3 days. And then my mom snapped on me and said, get your stuff and get out. And so my mom and my mom and my dad have a great relationship. We have never fought. We've never cursed at each other. We've never had any problems. That for like 30 minutes in their house, we screamed at each other.
That beeping is on their side.
I was so mad that nobody told me that Alex shot Charles and what happened. And nobody told me anything about what happened. And so when that went down, me and Zach got our stuff, and we went over to Summer's house, and I called Summer. And I told Summer what happened. I said, you don't know that Charles is dead? And she goes, no. But I knew that she did because the way that she reacted. So my mom told me on Friday when I was at their house, she said, I know that you and Charles were texting and emailing. I saw every text and every email that you were trying to get Lori in trouble at the church. And that shocked me because I said, well, how could you have, if Charles got shot and the phone is there and the police got the phone, how did you have time to go through every text and every email that me and Charles had? Which makes me believe that, in my opinion, my theory is that Lori and Alex got together, and Lori convinced Alex that Charles is not Charles anymore, that he's this guy named Ned, and that they shot him. I don't even think there was a fight or anything. I just think that because Charles texted me at 7:33 and went into the house. And then from what I read on the reports or whatever, it says that the police were called at 8 or something about him getting shot. And I thought, why would Alex be at Lori's anyways? And why would he have a gun in the house? And why wouldn't he call 911? Charles is not going to hurt anybody. He's not going to go crazy on anybody. And Alex is an expert shooter. He's got tons of guns. He goes shooting all the time. He knows how to kill somebody. And he shot 2 shots to his chest to make sure he wasn't dead. And then, or to make sure he was dead. And this was my theory.
Yeah.
and then try to cover it up by trying to do mouth to mouth. Who does mouth to mouth after someone tries to kill you and then you shoot them? I mean, there's so many things that don't, there's so many red flags that, and I don't know if you can, there's proof of anything, but did Alex get hit with a baseball bat?
He had an injury to the back of his head. Now he alleges it was from the baseball bat. You know, I can't prove one way or another right now whether or not it was, but he alleges that Charles hit him in the back of the head with a baseball bat.
And so, did he get a concussion, or did he go to the hospital? Was there stitches?
There was a cut to the back of the head. He did not go to the hospital. So we brought him back here and interviewed him, and then. You know, not having any reason, at least at the time, to hold him, released him from there. The reason that I'm positive they were able to see all of your texts and emails is because Lori had Charles's phone, and we had to get it back from her, shoot, a couple hours after she was released, so she had time to go through his phone.
But my mom knew about this on Friday.
Yeah. But they had Charles's phone when she left. Basically, she left her house, and then came back. She dropped JJ off.
We covered this yesterday, but in case you haven't seen that yet, because it's still up. I showed the Lori in the drive-thru at Burger King with the kids in the car. His phone is pinging also at that same time in that drive-thru, so we know that she had it after she left the house, right after Charles was dead. And in her interview, she says she took it before because she was teasing him about what was on his phone. So she probably took it as soon as he got in, and he never got it back. And she took his rental car, rendering him helpless and trapped there. You know,
school sometime around this incident. She says right after the incident happened. She was in a panic and left and took JJ to school and then came back. We brought her down and interviewed her, Tylee, and Alex, and then released them from here. And then as we were processing the scene, we're like, well, where's Charles's phone? So we called Lori, and she's like, oh, I have it, and brought it back to us a couple hours later. So she had his phone on Thursday right after the incident for, 4 hours.
Just to let you know, Charles never leaves his phone anywhere. He's always has it with him. Yeah. So for her to say that he left it there and she got his phone, that did not happen.
Yeah.
That did not happen. Charles has his phone on him all the time. So which then believes that they had planned something and Charles walked in. So how is Tylee, what did she, I don't even know what happened. Like, none of my family has talked to me because supposedly I was on Charles's side to try to get Lori help. My whole family has not told me one thing about this incident.
So what the report was is that Al basically stayed the night there the night before and was planning on going and doing something for the day, him, Lori, and Tylee. That Charles came and got JJ and basically got into a screaming match and was yelling and screaming at Lori. And then they say that Tylee basically brought a baseball bat out from her room and was kind of standing next to Lori, and, had it kind of holding it in defense of Lori as Charles was yelling at her. They say that Charles yanked the baseball bat out of her hand, that Alex got involved and basically intervened during that altercation. Alex got hit with the bat. He went back to his room, got the gun, and then came back and basically challenged Charles. Charles came after him with the bat again, and that's when he shot and killed him.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. That just is like... And did Tylee see the whole thing?
They say that she was, they said that she was just outside of the house at the time the shooting happened, is where she puts herself.
Hi, Sharon. Welcome. Glad you made it.
That doesn't make any sense to me. None. Zero. That is like, and this is my brother and sister, and I love them with all my heart. But I'm telling you, there's something wrong about Lori and Alex and this belief that they have, and Lori thinks that death is nothing. And it's odd that Joe, her ex-husband, supposedly died of a heart attack when they were desperate for money, and he left her $50,000 and Tylee gets $2,000. and then Charles has a $2 million. There's a lot of red flags for me, and that story does not make sense. Charles does not leave his phone anywhere.
Yeah.
So which makes me believe that is there cameras at the houses around there that could see the street or anything?
You know, I found one Ring doorbell, but I think the fence was outside of it, so I haven't been able to find a single camera in the neighborhood that would help me walk through a timeline of any of this.
Yeah.
So I have the same, just the what if they brought him there to set him up type thing, and I just don't.
Yeah.
It's a matter of making our way through it. So.
Yeah, to me, it's just I don't. You don't have to shoot and kill Charles. You call 911. He's not going to. It's just all of it sounds way too crazy to me.
Yeah.
And set up and staged. Al, he lives so close to them. He doesn't have to spend the night at Lori's house. He could drive over there and they could go somewhere during the day. That's definitely a lie.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know how you can prove it or what the proof can be. That's the whole problem is I'm sure they plan. I don't know if you can, if they've ever emailed each other or text each other, or they just plan this out by just talking. I don't know, but there's got to be somewhere where they've talked this through, because Lori and Alex planned Joe's death. And Lori found out that Joe molested her kids supposedly, and Alex got upset, and Al said, "I'll take care of him." And then they planned out how they were going to kill Joe, and Al was going to taser him, throw him in the trunk, and take him out to a field and shoot him, and then bury him. Well, Al went to taser him, and it didn't work, and Joe called the cops, and Al went to jail for 12 months. Yeah. So there's something with Lori and Alex that neither one of them are. Well, Alex is excommunicated from the church, and so he believes Lori, because Lori's like, it doesn't matter what you do in this world. All you have to do is have a body, and you can be saved. You're just here to get a body. And Al loves that because then he can go sin and do whatever he wants. So he loves to hear what Lori has to tell him. And so I'm just telling you, man to man, and I love my family, but justice, poor Charles, he didn't deserve to die at all. He was so upset about the way Lori was doing that, and so the way that she changed, the things that she said, and the odd behavior, and just. I was the only one that would sit and listen to him cry and be upset about it, and everybody listened to Lori and my family, and just they shut him off. He couldn't talk to anybody, and he paid for everybody in the family.
Catch that dirt. They wouldn't listen to him. So this is the second adult male that's saying Charles had confided and cried, right? But they're cashing his check. But they can't listen. What did my grandma say? With my money comes my mouth. You not listening to my mouth, you're not getting my money, period.
He paid for everybody's phone. He bought cars. I mean, even my mom and dad. And it's just odd that my mom sent my wife a text on Friday. She didn't tell us that Charles was dead. She didn't tell us anything was happening. She knew that I flew out there on Charles's points, and she sent a message to my wife going, "Thank you so much for sending Adam out here using your points to fly out." Why would she say that?
Right.
I think my mom knows something, and she's trying to cover up for those two. And Tylee definitely has to know something, and it doesn't make any sense that JJ's in the car when this whole thing happened. And after you shoot somebody, you get in the car and you drive to take him to school.
Yeah.
And you probably know all this.
I share them with you.
Yeah.
Share them with you. So.
And I don't know if you've seen the emails that Charles sent, but he talks about all the crazy things that Lori has said, to him.
He got a copy of an order of protection petition that he got that outlined some of those allegations.
And he went to our stake president, and there's a lot of stuff. And then I guess they had $10,000 in cash somewhere for an emergency, and Lori took $7,100 out and tried to blame Charles and said that he took it. And I don't know. I just feel like they're trying to get Charles's, and I don't know, Charles tried to get a divorce from Lori, and she disappeared for 58 days. Nobody knew where she was. Not her family. She didn't tell anybody in her family. She didn't tell anybody. Because she didn't want Charles to actually divorce her. And I think it's because she wanted to keep that policy alive.
Yeah.
Keep that money flowing.
And so that just, all the behavior is so strange that nobody in the family, not even her daughter, knew where she was. And she was in Hawaii apparently this whole time.
Yeah, and Tylee was staying with Alex at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those three are thicker than thieves, but I bet you Tylee could break if you got to her. I don't know what she would say, but gosh, there's something that's really wrong about that.
Yeah, I like I said, I have a lot of concerns, and it's been going through. Like, I have Charles's phone now, so I've been going through the phones because he said that he was going to record his interaction with her, but there wasn't a recording. So I don't know if they deleted it or if he didn't actually run the recorder. I don't know.
Is there a way to get deleted messages or deleted things or no?
We're able to restore some of them, but his phone, like you said, he was on it all the time. His phone's 80 gigabytes worth of data.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, there's just so much in there that it's mind numbing to sit and try to go through it. And
yeah,
I actually met with one of our computer forensic guys on Friday, and then ended up getting called away for something different. But me, see if he could find like something that I might be missing in the download of the phone and stuff. So
yeah. Well, I know that was the thing because people weren't believing him, and Lori said that he had an affair, and so some girl called him, and I said, I want to believe Lori. And I said, well, I didn't get to talk to her, but this is what she told my mom. And I was like, well, I would like to see the receipt that supposedly he had, sex with prostitutes. And I also would like to hear from the girl that called Lori. And my mom's like, well, that's not none of your business. I said, yeah, but if you want me to believe that Charles had an affair, because Charles cried to me and swore to me that he didn't. And I believe him. And maybe he's lying. I don't know. But the way that Lori has been telling fibs and crazy things out of her mouth, I don't believe one thing that comes out of her mouth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that's a situation. And so, I mean, I literally lost my family over this. My mom and dad will not talk to me. They told me to get out of their house, me and my son both. But we were like the most loved in our family by everybody. And because I have logic, normal logic, you want to be on your family side, but when right is right, right's right, and wrong is wrong. Yeah. And for them to believe that, oh, Al's a hero, he saved Tylee. Charles would never hurt anybody like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I think
looking into it, it doesn't seem like Charles has ever had any type of violent past whatsoever.
No, none. It's, to me,
Mrs. Parks, this is so sad. And I commented on this yesterday, how Tylee was like, she had a bat in her room when she was at her Uncle Alex's house, so she would feel safe. And to me, that is just screaming, he had bad energy. Because why are you not safe in the house with your uncle? Do you have a bat to protect you against him? Because, I mean, obviously he's aggressive. If somebody else came in, he would take them out. That is just... Yeah, Lori stopped pretending once she became a goddess. I think whoever said that is right. Like, her currency as a Mormon woman was mom and wife. And, at first you don't succeed, try 5 times at being a wife. She did. But that it just breaks my heart for Tylee. And to see her in those interrogations, she was so obviously manipulated by her mother, which Adam even is intimating, right? When he was like, you could break Tylee, like you could get through the lies because they were piled on.
Lori and Alex planned this out. They knew Charles was coming to get JJ. Somehow Tylee was in her room or somewhere or outside or whatever. They shot him. They killed him. And I don't know if it was for money or if they thought he was that evil spirit named Ned. And Lori can't deny any of that. She said that to a lot of people. And so, I mean, I don't know, that's what I know. And that's, I know there's a lot of red flags. I know.
Keith, I agree. They're very enmeshed. And I wonder if it's because of the personality disorders, right? Because we kind of see this with like the Adelson family and the Boones, right? Like they just can't break away from each other. I think there's like a very big codependency aspect. There's the relationship triangulation by Lori. It's always like the head narcissist, or I'm not diagnosing her. She has some traits, though, y'all. She has some traits. But you know what I mean? Like, it is very incestuous. And it may literally be incestuous between Alex, or it had been between Alex and Lori, because they just seem like unnaturally close. Do you know what I mean?
Court, you probably can't prove things on red flags, but there's got to be something about that baseball bat. I even think that Lori hit Alex with the baseball bat after they killed Charles.
Yeah, well, yeah, the possibility is definitely there. I mean, Charles, is, even for his age, was in great shape, and you could tell it didn't appear to be that type of injury of a grown man swinging a bat. Like I said, when they got back to drop off the phone, Al didn't even.
David, was he a long haul truck driver? Like, he's gone for days at a time, or is he doing short runs? It's so funny because one of my sisters did truck driving. She was a nurse. She's now gone back to nursing because she didn't like it. But yeah, maybe she did. But yeah, she said for protection. But why would her mom leave her with the uncle who was going to be gone for days at a time? And where was JJ while Lori was off gallivanting without her children? I have so many questions.
Gone to the hospital, he has a medical tape basically around the cut on the back of his head, and that's that. So
yeah, there's a lot. I just want to make sure that you got my side, my wife's side, because she also it just all my friend Eric that knows everybody that lives in Tucson, everybody's gut feeling is that this was not self-protection from Al.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have spent the night. He shouldn't have taken that week off of work. I mean, when you think about it, it was literally planned out for this whole thing to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, like I said, I have the same concerns. So we're still actively investigating it and
okay.
going through it all. And you heard? I guess you haven't really talked to your mom and them. I don't know if Lori is has moved from that house, if she's staying at Al's house, if she's even still in the Phoenix area. I don't have any idea where she is right now.
From what I heard from my mom, who talks to my uncle and aunt, that she's changed her story 3 times. And my uncle, my 2 uncles, both say they know that's not the right story.
Gotcha.
And so my mom, and she was so distraught when I got back. Like, because I literally yelled, I said, Alex and Lori murdered Charles. And she looked at me and her eyes got all big. Like I said something that, but that could be anything, but still, I couldn't believe it. And so the family, the cousins and the uncles and everybody, they understand the history with Lori and Alex and Lori's ex-husbands.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole pattern of things there. So nobody in my family believes what's happening.
Ex-husbands, plural. So JJ was with Charles, Tylee was with Alex, so she could go to school, I thought. So she had her GED. She said that at the police station, because I was questioning that, like, why didn't she finish and get a diploma? So I just think Lori had other things to do and couldn't be bothered to be a mother. I'm glad that JJ was with Charles. So I'm looking at the detailed timeline on the East Idaho. I'm still going through it, so I'm piecing this together. So all of you guys who know, thank you for sharing the information. I love it when we crowdsource.
And I think even my dad didn't even know. My mom didn't tell my dad. Apparently, Lori had a family meeting at her house on Saturday and told my mom and dad, or told my dad, because my mom already knew on Friday.
Huh.
And so then my dad found out about it. And then my sister Summer's like, yeah, Al's a hero. Because the story that Al and Lori tell the family is one thing. But I'm sure that they got that phone immediately and started, going through his phone after they shot and killed him. He didn't leave his phone.
Yeah.
So... And the timeline is 7:30. I think the last text I got from him, it was right around 7:30 in the morning. And then I think the phone, from what I read on the newspaper, was like at 8 o'clock or somewhere after 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but that's what I know.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I have all your information, and we're trying to figure out the best way. Do you think Al would ever take a call from you?
No.
Just avoid you.
Yeah, my whole family will avoid me. Nobody will talk to me because there's an investigation going on, and so they don't want to say a word to me. I guarantee that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just be curious to see what Al's side of the story is to a third. You know what I mean? To
another party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, for none of them to tell me anything that happened. Like, I just heard it from you for the first time because Kay had told me a little bit about what was said. Because I talked to Charles' sister, Kay, and I feel bad for her too.
Yeah, because JJ's grandma, correct?
Yeah. And she told me that. So I think my Uncle Rex said that Al, after that happened, went to Columbia, or my mom told somebody that Al went to Columbia, and then he came back. Because then Brandon, the one that Melanie's divorcing, said that Al was at Melanie's house on Saturday putting her fans in, ceiling fans in.
Okay.
He goes, Al's out in Columbia. He's there. So maybe he went for a couple of days, or maybe he didn't go at all. And then my uncle said that my mom said that Kay wanted to go fly JJ down for Charles's funeral. And nobody the weird thing about it is that when I was at my house on Saturday morning, and me and my mom and dad had to sit down, and it was a yelling match, and then it got calm, and we tried to talk through things, and then it got to be yelling again. While we were sitting there, not one time did my mom or dad say anything about how terrible it is or sorry that Charles was shot. They were all like, what a piece of crap trying to hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's another red flag that nobody, like my sister, nobody wants to go to the funeral. I had planned a vacation in Los Angeles with my son. So we were in there when we told Kay that she said she was having a thing for Charles. But then when Kay called Lori's like, no, we're busy. We're getting ready to move to Hawaii. So we don't have time to have JJ go down there and back. And then, so that was something that Kay had told my wife, Nicole. And so she didn't let JJ go to her own. Lori didn't let JJ go to Charles's funeral in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And then my mom said, or told Lori or Kay, I can't remember where it was, but that they were going to move to Hawaii. But then now Lori has a job at a gym, and she's working at a gym. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of different things. So I literally am in the dark because nobody, they cut me and my son off from all social media. Gotcha. And my son is their favorite. Everybody, the greatest kid in the world. And he is distraught because he moved to Phoenix and worked there for Brandon and would stay at my mom and dad's house and be at Summer's house and Melanie's house. And for them to cut him off because Charles reached out to him and he felt sorry for Charles like I did. Yeah. And so just because we had conversations with Charles, they cut us off. None of that makes any sense to me.
So are your parents actively still involved in the LDS church?
Yes.
Okay, so they have a bit off on the crazy nonsense or whatever you want to call it that Lori's kind of got going on.
They're called Prepared People Prepared. Lori's on a podcast. It's called Preparing the People. And ever since Lori's been on this 2-year deal of reading these books and being part of these podcasts, the people who are doing the podcast have been excommunicated from the church. Gotcha. And Alex said, the guy who got excommunicated from the church, he said, I've heard more light and truth out of his podcast in the last 2 weeks than I have the whole time I grew up going to church. So they're bought hook, line, and sinker into this thing. But for Lori to say that she goes to the temple and talks to Jesus Christ and that she's on a special mission here to gather 144,000 people and that she's married to Moroni and that she has to do whatever it is to make sure her mission gets completed, which could mean killing Charles or anybody that's getting in her way of her mission. There's a lot of just, and it's literally nonsense. And Lori is one that loves attention. And I get it, because I love attention too. I'm on the radio. But she wants attention to a point like, if you did see Jesus Christ in the temple, you wouldn't tell anybody. And she goes around and tells everybody because she wants that attention. Yeah. That she's better than everybody else. That Jesus Christ gave her a higher priesthood than the rest of us. And like she gave highly blessings. You're not allowed to get blessings in our church unless you hold the priesthood. And so she's given Tylee a bunch of blessings.
As the head gossip, Kathy over at Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo, she's the better than you Mormon. She's that kind.
And so she's doing, and she's supposed to. And you're supposed to follow the prophet, and she's not. And my mom and dad are like, well, she's doing, she's not doing anything wrong, and it's just too much for me to. And I was only going there to see if I could actually have a conversation with her after a year and a half, and she wouldn't do it. Yeah. She wasn't, and so there was nothing I could do. I was going to go talk to the stake president, but he wasn't there when I was going to go play basketball. I never went to play basketball. So, and I was going to record, and then I thought, you know what? I don't have to record. I just want to hear it with my own ears. So my mom and dad are very upset that I said I was going to record her and record them. and they think I'm a traitor and all this other stuff. And I was only doing it to help Lori. I still want to help her. She's my sister. I think she needs some mental help.
Yeah. So this, and I figured it was, but all this preparing of people and all this other stuff is way outside of the LDS faith. And it seems almost cult-like. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's very, yes. There's a lot of bizarre behavior, the things that they say. They try to mix it in so it doesn't seem like it's that crazy, but it is.
So which stake were they at? Which church were they going to?
They were going to, let's see, they lived up, where's that road? Off of Riggs Road.
Okay.
So the stake center is on Riggs Road.
Okay.
And the stake president's name is President Holmes.
Okay.
And he has interviewed Charles and Lori. And Lori, I think, lied to him to keep her temple recommend. Charles wanted her temple recommend to be taken away because if her temple recommend gets taken away, then he thinks that she would snap out of whatever she's in.
Gotcha.
And that was it. And so that was the reasoning that I agreed to do anything with Charles, was to let's think that you can shoot her, nothing will happen. She told me she doesn't have to eat anymore because she's a translated being. If she didn't want to eat, she didn't have to. And if somebody tried to shoot her, the bullet wouldn't go through her. She actually said those words to me and to my son.
Huh.
So I know that, that's not, there's, I don't know what I don't know what crazy or delusional or whatever it is. But if you're living like that, as my mom and dad said, she's not hurting anybody. They said that on Thursday before we knew Charles was dead. Yeah, she hurt somebody, all right.
So has her temple recommend been taken away?
No.
Okay.
She went back. So Charles told the president all that. So then she had to go in with the interview with the president. And the president asked her the questions that you're supposed to do to get a temple recommend. And she lied because she says, I follow the prophet. I do what he says. The prophet doesn't give you permission to give blessings to your kids unless you have the priesthood.
Yeah.
And she's bragging that gave Tylee a blessing one time in the room. She goes, and Al was in there too. This was way before when this really started happening, when I went down and visited him and I realized there's something wrong with Lori. She goes, come in here, let's give Tylee a blessing. And then Al, who's excommunicated, she's like, it doesn't matter. He has a priesthood. They don't know what they're talking about, and he could put his hands on her. And if I want to give her a blessing, she'd be healed even faster because my priesthood is higher than all of yours. And that's the kind of talk that I said, Lori, there's something wrong here. And then after that day, she never talked to me again.
Okay.
So if you don't believe what she's saying, she gets rid of you. I guess she's got another friend named Melanie that buys into everything she's saying too. So they're two peas in a pod as well, apparently. I've never met her before, but that's what I heard.
Who was Brandon married to?
He was married to my niece, Melanie, but Lori also has another friend named Melanie. Yes, two Melanies. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I've heard the name Mel, but I wasn't sure. What's your niece Melanie's last name?
Boudreaux.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Brandon's wife.
Okay. And then there is another Melanie. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where the two Melanies are. But, for Lori to have that, to say that you could shoot her and a bullet wouldn't hurt her or she never has to eat again, I mean, that's alarming. And I told that to my mom and dad. And they're like, oh, my mom and dad admitted to me, she's detached from reality, so she's living in a world that she can actually live in. And so I said, well, there's something wrong with that. She needs to go to therapy or something. She goes, you think Lori's going to go to therapy? And so I think with the church is that she went in and got her temple recommend because she answered the questions right about whatever she was supposed to answer so she got her temple recommend, and so she goes to the temple all the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, you have my direct number.
Yep.
I will be in touch with you. I'm still actively working on this.
Okay.
But if there's anything that I could think of that I need to, try to find out, I'll definitely reach out to you. I have not reached out to your parents and everything else because I'm not sure what the family dynamic was and is.
Yeah.
I knew you had, from the messages, I knew you'd been talking to Charles that day.
Yeah.
The text message back and forth and on his phone and him saying
yeah.
There and stuff. Did you call Al? Because you had sent him a text saying, "Hey, I'm going to call Al right now and press him to come get me." Did you call Al?
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure because he.
Oh wait, maybe I did call. I think I did call him, but he never answered.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I was just doing that to be able to get Al away from Lori, so then we could actually talk to Lori, because and also to pressure Al. I wanted to ask Al what Lori's been saying, because Al's told me things that Lori says, because they're thicker than thieves too. And so since Lori doesn't talk to me, I wanted to find out what Lori has been saying lately, because I know what she said when I was there.
Yeah.
And so, but then Al shut me off. I think Lori said, "Do not talk to Adam." Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult situation all the way around on this one, huh?
Yeah, it's literally like something out of like one of those 2020s.
Right. Yeah. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you calling me. And
sure, yeah, let me know if I can help any other way. Give me a call. I was being able to help any way I can.
Definitely, I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
All right, thank you.
Yikes. So Summer is the sister because they announced it yesterday. She's on Lori's witness list, and apparently Lori misspelled her sister's last name. To be fair, her sister's husband's last name, really. But, oh my goodness, there's a lot to catch up on. I've watched this. I did not follow the trial for the murder of the children. I just didn't have it in me, but I did watch the sentencing. Yeah, there's so many layers. There's so many things going on. And Lori was lying to so many people, as we see with all of our favorite narcs. We've got Donna, who's a liar, Sarah, who's a liar, Wendy, who's a liar. Why would Lori be any different? Do you know? So if I was going to flag this, Dominique, if the Mormon underwear is designed to stop them from procreating, they need to get some new draws because they have lots of children. Those underwear are not working. I still believe Mel B isn't charged in Brandon's unaliving. I still can't believe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. And Alex is dead, the guy who did the wet work, right? And I think Alex also tried to shoot Tammy, right? And she thought it was like paintballs or something. She's so smart and so compassionate. You have to check out all these other channels. Okay, guys, I think 16 parts, not 16 hours straight. Okay. There's a lot out there, and the family members are talking. I have watched the cousin's channel. She was the one I watched. She looked at Tylee's interview and gave her commentary, which I thought was interesting because she knows Kylie, or she knew Kylie. And so to hear that perspective, and also there's just sort of like insider baseball in the Mormon community. So I love it when people who are LDS come on and chime in, or who have some sort of experience with it, because there are things that we just wouldn't know about. Also, in our case, the Shanna Gardner case, the murder of Jarrett Bright, again, the Shanna Gardner is LDS, right? So there's things happening over there. There's Mormon funeral potatoes talked about as part of the setup for Jarrett. And so the Mormons are having their heyday, I guess, in true crime, but it's across all religions, all beliefs, whether it's not just religion, but like sports games, like the football players, the basketball players, the rappers, the whatever, the nurses. Somebody always has a thing, and whatever that thing is, there's insider baseball in there. So I'm not making sense, but there's like intricacies related to that group that if you're not a part of that group, you don't necessarily understand. So that just adds a layer of us being perplexed of like, what? Because I didn't know about the magical Mormon panties. I'm sure Lori thought hers were extra magical. That's why she had mirrors installed in her rental so that she could dance in front of them in her magic panties. Okay, guys. So that, I think we're up to speed on this. The next thing I want to go into is going to be Charles's wife speaks out. She's the mother of his adult children. Outside? Okay, we're going to go outside. We're going to walk the dogs. And also, Zulema and Alex Cox did an interview that it felt like Alex knew the writing was on the wall, but he was in too deep at that point. What do you do? And I'm not saying, I don't have any proof that Lori unalived Alex, but what are the odds that she was not involved? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if Zulema brought a lightning in and struck him or what it was. But something happened. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I will do a recap tonight if there's anything. I do have a reading planned of Boone text messages. I'm a little behind on my thumbnails, but I'll get my thumbnail game up tight by noon today. And so, yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate you coming here and hanging out with me as always. Please take care of yourself. Stay lovely. Be kind. Toodles.